Hi everyone, welcome to my channel Christian Faith and Fiction. My name's Lou, and today I want to share with you a kind of reading vlog review of the book The Architect by Jonathan Starrett. I requested an advance copy of this through NetGalley, and Tyndale was very kind to let me have one. So I've just been reading through and keeping my thoughts as we've been going to let you know what I thought of it. Amazon says it's for 8 to 12-year-olds and grade level 3 to 4. And it is releasing on February the 7th, 2023. Okay, so I started reading The Architect. I actually read through the first 3 chapters, maybe a few chapters, twice, because I was struggling to get a hold on what the genre was and what kind of book it was. It is being marketed as a middle grade Christian fiction book. I think it is, having started to read it, it's kind of like a mixed genre book. So there are elements of like historical fiction, superhero fiction, kind of fantasy-ish, dystopian-ish. There's a lot going on in the world, and that one, it took me a while to get my head around the start of it. And as I said, I read it through a couple of times. But once I got into it, I'm actually really enjoying it so far. It starts off with Charlie, who is an orphan who's on the streets, and she is she's alone and she's walking on the streets, and she gets given a balloon by a balloon salesman, and she thinks it's kind of strange, but she takes it anyway, and the balloon kind of flies off. She goes chasing after it. And one of the things about this world is that there are zeppelins in the sky, and so it's kind of had the feel of 1920s, 1930s kind of city. So I've seen it marketed as steampunk and Gotham City mixed together. I would say the steampunk really is just to do with the zeppelins, like the airships type of thing. It's not like a Victorian one. It's more, the technology seems to be more like 1920s, 1930s to me, and it feels like that kind of mobster New York vibes to it. It's like set in Phantom City. So there are zeppelins in the sky, and there's this sort of slogan that everyone says is "no one about when the zeppelins are out," something like that. So she suddenly realizes that she's like been spotted by a zeppelin, and she gets blasted by some light, and the light sort of wakes her up, and she starts to see things, remember things that she hasn't before, but then she passes out and ends up in a dumpster, or a skip as we would call them. When she comes to, she is actually in an ice cream parlour, I think, with a guy she's never seen before. He's part of the movie business, and he takes her to a cinema to watch this, his newest film that's coming out, and all the films there are based on this this superhero character called the Cardinal. This is why it's kind of gives me sort of dystopian vibes, what with the Zeppelin sort of things, but also there's like weird things like nobody can watch anything other than the Cardinal films. Everybody sort of believes in the Cardinal, and Charlie is kind of waking up and seeing that things are not as she has previously believed. So yeah, it's quite hard to explain. It was quite hard to get your head around to start with, but I am really loving it. There's definitely like a superhero vibe to it. There's like a spy tech kind of vibe to it. But set in historical fiction. There's like a mystery as to who the architect is, and yeah, different kind of technology things happening, sort of fantasy-ish things happening. Yeah, I'm enjoying it a lot so far, and yes, I'm not explaining it very well, but it is unusual, but really good so far. I'm about halfway through reading The Architect now. I am enjoying it still. It's still quite quirky and has sort of, definitely has the sort of feelings that I like to have in a children's book. It is a little bit weird in places, but it is still, it's fun to read so far. I'm definitely seeing the kind of allegory or the parable behind the story, and that kind of spiritual significance to it. So that's also a good thing. I can't really tell you anything more about the plot because I'm going to get into spoilers territory now, but I am enjoying it so far. So I finished reading The Architect now. I enjoyed it up until the end. I found it to be a really interesting world, really interesting characters, group of characters coming together to work together. Things I enjoyed the most about this book, first of all, the setting was really interesting. I love historical fiction. I love that kind of time period anyway. Mixing that with a sort of dystopia, mixing that with superheroes and spies, a kind of mystery thriller type of thing, but for kids. I enjoyed all of that sort of mixture of things. I enjoyed the characters, particularly the younger characters. I felt they were really interesting and different from each other. I really appreciate the faith content in here. There was a lot of different themes going through that you could read into it. It was not in your face, but very much allegorical, symbolic of things. And I really think, like, if you were reading this, if I was reading it with a child, there would be quite a lot of things that I could talk about and discuss out of this, to do with faith, to do with friendship, to do with like salvation and God's plan for our lives, God's plan for the world, to do with evangelism, coming together as a team, like church, working together, as I say, of friendships, people's like coming from places, like their redemption story and coming from being lost to being found. There's so many like themes in this that you could really go to town with it. If you were like teaching on it, I think you could probably get like a whole load of like religious studies, Christian teaching material out of this as well. I think it would be a really interesting way of teaching about the gospel. I appreciated it. I think from the way that it ended, that it's going to be more of a series, so that will be good. That will be fun. Looking up Jonathan's website, it looks like he's a pastor of a children's ministry and also has a YouTube channel. I'll link his website down below, as well as the Goodreads page to his book. So in terms of rating, I gave this book 9 out of 10 for story content and 3 out of 3 for faith content. And I gave it 5 stars on Goodreads. Okay, I hope you enjoyed this slightly different format. I kind of enjoyed giving you updates as I was going along. Let me know in the comments a children's book that really influenced you when you were growing up. Okay, until next time, God bless. Bye.